What is up, harvesters? My name is Ken. Welcome to Hobby Harvest. So today I want to talk to you guys about, is it okay to hunt your food plots? Now, simple answer, yes. More complicated answer, it depends. Now, this here is a small parcel and I hunt this food plot. There's a blind setup on the edge of it, but it has an amazing hunter access that I've shared with you guys in other videos. It is very well hidden into the tree line, and there's several yards of switchgrass in front of it to hide it even more into the tree line. So you need to be very careful when you do hunt your food plots, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But why might you not want to hunt your food plots? So the reason why you wouldn't want to hunt your food plots is that you may have a larger parcel, and in that situation you would put your food plots in. But what you can do through creating man-made deer trails, some guys call them travel corridors, whatever, you can influence the deer's movement to those food plots. You know, man-made deer trails or travel corridors give you a great opportunity at deer anyway. I've been making those for over 30 years, since I was a little kid. I'd be out in the woods with my dad and my grandpa, and we'd be walking through the woods, and wherever we'd go, you'd always like snap a twig off of a branch or anything that you would have had to like move out of the way or duck under. You just snap it off and leave it there. And after doing that for a while, all of a sudden we started to realize that the deer were using the trails that we were making through the woods. And all we were doing was just making trails that went like from the road to the stand, or from one stand to another, or whatever. They were just places that we as humans walked in the woods. And so when we walked there, we opened up the trails just made our own trail just to make it easier for us as a human to walk. And lo and behold, the deer started using them too, because it was the easiest path through the woods. So then we started saying, hey, why don't we make these where we want the deer to walk, so that instead of where we walk, they walk in front of our stand or in front of our blind, and it works awesome. And so now I talk about that on my channel. You know, I've been doing that forever and it works amazingly. So if you guys actually don't want to put a ton of time and effort into this habitat improvement gig, you can just make those travel corridors, set up a stand on them and hunt them, and those deer will still follow that path of least resistance through the woods. So you'll have a good opportunity at them that way. But when you put all these other features in, your food plots, your bedding areas, and you connect those with travel corridors, those travel corridors themselves are great places to hunt because the deer will move on them. And since we know what deer do at any given time of day, we can try to hunt them based on the time of day we're hunting. So if you were, for example, to hunt in the morning, you definitely wouldn't want to hunt a food plot anyway, because the deer aren't going to be moving to a food plot in the morning. They're going to be moving towards their bedding area. So the best place to hunt in the morning is a bedding area, and you wait for the deer to return to that bedding area. Now, that's when you get a shot on them there. You can also kind of see where they go and bed down. Hopefully it's not right underneath you if you're not trying to harvest that particular animal. But you can see where they go, you can wait. They kind of do slowly browse around during the day, so you can wait till they stand up, maybe move 50 yards that way or whatever, and it gives you a chance to sneak down out of that blind or that stand. But in the afternoons, those deer are getting up out of those bedding areas and they're heading to those food sources, those food plots, if you put them in. Well, if you have a lot of land, you should know where your bedding areas are, and you should know where your food plots are, obviously. So you can hunt that movement between those two. And when we start talking about how bucks and does move differently, like those fawns and those does are going to get up and move first, and they're going to be closest to those food sources. So they're going to get there the soonest. But those older bucks, they're going to get there maybe before dark, but maybe just after dark too. Now that does mean they are relating to that food source, but in order to get a shot on them during the daylight, you would want to maybe be set up on that motion of movement, on that trail of movement, if you can pattern them, so that you have a chance at seeing them while it's still light out, because it may get dark out while they're still on that trail coming into that food source. So hunting a food source wouldn't be exactly advantageous in that situation. Now, on a micro parcel like this is my southeastern Wisconsin food plot. I only have a little area to work with here. So what do you do if you only have a little area to work with? You put in a food source, you make it the #1 food source in the area, and then yes, you have to hunt the food source, because I don't have enough room to try to hunt off of the edges of it, or say towards the bedding area or somewhere else. Like, yeah, I could change which part of the food plot I hunt, and that's great for playing with the wind, and maybe the deer are coming in from one area one time of the year and they're coming in from another area a different time of the year, just based on how the natural cover is changing off the edges of the property where they're bedding down. So yes, you can hunt your food plots, but you need to be very, very careful when you do, and let me tell you why. So the reason why is deer will always focus on the number one food source in the area. That's why I talk so much about creating that number one high quality, diverse food plot, because at any given time of the year, a different plant in the food plot can be that number one that they're relating to. So you don't want to plant a monoculture, because if that is the number one food source for that month, great. But what about next month and the month after and the month after? You know, bow season here in Wisconsin goes from the middle of September until January. That is a long season, and you want to make sure you're providing quality food throughout the season. So when you hunt your food plots, you need to be really conscious of that hunter access. Like I said, I've showed you guys mine before. It is a trench with a fence over the top of it with all sorts of vines growing in. Now that is way over the top. I'm not telling you guys you need to do that, but if you have the opportunity and you want to put in the Cadillac of hunter accesses like that, by all means, it will help if you're trying to hunt a food plot. Now, the other thing is, don't ever hunt that food plot if the wind is not right. So those deer are going to relate to that food plot every single day if it is the number one food source. So your does and fawns, I can set my watch by the doe family groups that will hit this food plot up once it starts getting going. So they will be here every single day. Now, if I hunt this when the wind's bad and I paint my scent all over them, they're gonna go disappear for as much as a week before they start to come back. And when they do start to come back, they're gonna come back when it's dark out. And it will take them a considerable amount of time to actually start relating to this food plot every day consistently during the daylight again. So that's what happens if you paint them with scent just one time. Now those bucks, if you paint them with scent one time, they may never come back during the entire season. It can take them months to get reacquainted with an area after they've smelled human scent there. So always make sure the wind is perfect for you when you're hunting a food source. You can get away with it in the woods a little bit easier, because if deer sent you in the woods, they were only heading from one place to another. So they will just maybe take a different path to get there. But when you take away that food source, they are going to completely ignore it for a while. They're going to go to their number two favorite food source. Now, this is something that can work to your guys' advantage though too. If you have neighbors who are putting in food plots like I do here, maybe they hunt them in a bad wind and those deer maybe were relating to their food plots, but now they painted scent on them in those food sources, and now they're going to come run to your food source because you kept it human scent free. So that's something you always want to be careful of. For example, I'm out here right now. I'm not expecting any deer activity. We're just starting to get germination on everything I planted last week. The deer are not relating to this food plot yet, and I'm out here in the middle of the day when I would not expect them to be here. So this is when I feel comfortable enough to come out here. I'm going to have to start not coming out here as often as soon as they start relating to this food source, because I need them to feel comfortable on this food source. I'm gonna have to go shoot my videos somewhere else, maybe back off the edge of the plot, the back side of the screen for the hunter access or something, so that I'm staying off the food source, and that's probably a couple 100 yards away from it. So it's more than far enough away. They're obviously not going to be out here during the daylight. They do bed down right on the edge of it, but I know where my bedding areas are, and they're not bedded down immediately off the edge of it, at least this time of year. During the middle of the winter, I've seen them bed this close, but this time of year, they do bed a little bit further away. So I'm not too worried about shooting a video out here if I'm hundreds of yards away from them. But that is something to stay conscious about. That's something, you guys aren't shooting videos, you're just going out there to hunt or whatever. Be very conscious of where your wind's coming from. Be quiet when you're getting in and out of the stands. Make sure those hunter accesses are clear of debris, any twigs you might step on, rocks or anything you might kick and cause some extra noise that you don't want. Make sure you get in quiet, scent free. Also get in well before dark. I know some of you guys are working with your work schedule. Do what you can to get out of work a little early on days you intend to hunt, so that you can get out and get in that stand well before those deer start moving towards that food plot if you are going to hunt it. Like I said, if you have the opportunity to have more property, create those travel corridors, create those funnels, do what you can, get those deer moving where you want them to move. And I would hunt those instead of that food source in the afternoon, because you will have that chance at getting that buck sooner while there's still light out than you would if you have to wait for him to get all the way to that food source. And so the other thing is, if you are gonna hunt a food source, make sure you're not over hunting it. Even if the wind is right, even if everything's awesome, you know, watch the weather, hunt the backside of those fronts. You have bad weather one day, it's a good day to hunt the next day. If you have a front come through, especially if there's a temperature drop, hunt that next day. Those are the days you should pick and choose to hunt if you can. I know some of you guys are like, hey, I can only hunt the weekend, so that's when I'm gonna hunt. But that's all right if you're only hunting like once or twice a week on a food source. I would keep it to less than that though. If the weather's not perfect, I would probably stay off. Just keep your activity on these food sources to a minimum. When you're going out there to hunt, make sure it's at a high quality day to hunt so that you're putting yourself in the best situation to get deer in front of you while it's still daylight out and you're not putting all of that extra human activity out there. So why don't you guys let me know down in the comments if you guys hunt food plots or if you hunt other attractions that relate to those food plots, and let me know what kind of success you've had. Have you shot more deer off of a food plot or off of, say, a travel corridor, man-made deer trail that's coming into a food source? I hope you guys got some value out of this video. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, so you can continue to see more videos like this, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.